The elevator doors were closing when Samantha Wells finally let herself break. She'd held it together through the morning meeting, where her presentation had been full of typos she was too exhausted to catch. Through lunch at her desk because she couldn't afford the cafeteria anymore. Through the afternoon when her phone buzzed with another text from the hospital billing department. Through watching her co-workers leave at 5 while she stayed late again, trying to make up for the work her scattered focus had left undone. But now, at 7:30 p.m., alone in the empty elevator descending from the 14th floor, Samantha finally allowed the tears to come. She pressed herself into the corner, face buried in her hands, and sobbed quietly, the kind of crying that came from bone-deep exhaustion, from carrying weight too heavy for one person, from the desperate fear that no matter how hard she tried, it would never be enough. Her mother's medical bills had reached $47,000. The experimental treatment insurance wouldn't cover. The treatment that might save her life but would definitely bankrupt Samantha. She'd already sold everything of value, maxed out her credit cards, taken on freelance work she did from midnight to 3 a.m. But it wasn't enough. It was never enough. The elevator jerked slightly as it passed the 10th floor, and Samantha tried to pull herself together, wiping at her eyes with shaking hands. Just 3 more floors and she could make it to her car, could fall apart properly in the privacy of... The elevator stopped on the 7th floor. Samantha's head snapped up in panic as the doors began to open. She turned away quickly, trying to hide her tear-stained face, praying whoever was getting on would be too absorbed in their phone to notice. Samantha, the voice made her stomach drop, deep, familiar, belonging to the one person she absolutely could not fall apart in front of, Nathan Pierce, CEO of Pierce Industries. Her boss's boss's boss. The man who'd built a tech empire from nothing and ran it with exacting standards that made everyone either step up or step out. Samantha kept her face turned away, but she could hear him step into the elevator, hear the doors close behind him, could feel his presence in the small space, alert and assessing. "I'm fine," she said automatically, but her voice cracked on the words, betraying her. "You're clearly not fine," Nathan replied, and she heard him move closer. "Samantha, look at me." It wasn't a request. It was the same tone he used in board meetings when he expected compliance. Samantha had no choice but to turn, to face him with tears still streaming down her cheeks, her professional mask completely shattered. Nathan's expression shifted from authoritative to concerned. He reached past her and hit the emergency stop button, bringing the elevator to a halt between floors. "What are you doing?" Samantha asked. Panic rising. "Making sure you don't have to fall apart in front of the parking garage security cameras," Nathan said, his voice gentler now. "The elevator has cameras too, but I control the footage. No one else will see this. You're safe here." The kindness in his words broke something else inside her. Fresh tears spilled over, and Samantha couldn't stop them, couldn't maintain the composure she'd been desperately clinging to for weeks. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't be. This is completely unprofessional." "Stop apologizing," Nathan interrupted. "You're human, Samantha. Humans cry. Even at work." He pulled a handkerchief from his pocket, an actual cloth handkerchief like something from another era, and offered it to her. "Tell me what's wrong." "I can't," Samantha whispered, taking the handkerchief but not using it yet. "If I start talking about it, I won't be able to stop, and you're the CEO. And I need this job, and you've been running yourself into the ground for the past 6 weeks," Nathan finished. "I've noticed, Samantha. You think I don't pay attention, but I do. You've lost weight. You're here earlier and staying later than anyone else. Your work is still good, but not up to your usual standards. And you look like you haven't slept properly in weeks." Samantha felt exposed, seen in a way that was both terrifying and somehow relieving. "I'm handling it," she said weakly. "No, you're not," Nathan replied, not unkindly. "You're drowning, and I need to know why. Because you're one of my best project managers, and I can't afford to lose you. More than that..." He paused, something vulnerable crossing his usually controlled features. "I don't want to see you suffering like this. So tell me what's going on, please." The please undid her completely. Samantha sank down to sit on the elevator floor, her back against the wall. And Nathan surprised her by sitting down across from her, his expensive suit apparently less important than meeting her at eye level. "My mom has cancer," Samantha heard herself say. "Stage 4. The doctors said there's an experimental treatment that might help, but insurance won't cover it because it's not FDA approved yet. It costs $75,000. I have $28,000 saved. I've been working every freelance job I can find. I've sold everything valuable I own. I've applied for grants and assistance programs, but—" Her voice broke. "But it's not enough. And she's getting worse, and I'm running out of time, and I don't know what else to do." Nathan was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, "How long have you been dealing with this alone?" 3 months since her diagnosis. "And you didn't tell anyone at work?" Samantha let out a bitter laugh. "Tell them what? That I need time off when we're in the middle of our biggest product launch? That I can't focus because I'm terrified of losing my mother? That I'm barely holding it together?" She wiped at her eyes with his handkerchief. "This job is the only thing keeping me afloat right now. I couldn't risk anyone thinking I couldn't handle it." "So, you've been handling your mother's terminal illness, a financial crisis, and a full-time demanding job, all while pretending everything is fine," Nathan said slowly. "Samantha, that's not strength, that's self-destruction." "I don't have another choice," Samantha replied. "My mom raised me alone after my dad left. She worked 3 jobs to put me through college. She's the reason I have this career. This life, I can't just let her die because I can't afford to save her." Nathan stood, extending a hand to help her up. Samantha took it, letting him pull her to her feet. He didn't immediately release her hand, and she found herself looking up at him, seeing something in his expression she'd never noticed before. Concern, yes, but also understanding, and something that looked almost like pain. "I'm going to tell you something I don't share often," Nathan said quietly. "When I was 25, my father had a heart attack. Massive medical bills. No insurance. I was just starting my first company, barely keeping it afloat. And suddenly I had to choose between saving my business or saving my father." His jaw tightened. "I chose the business. Told myself I'd pay him back later. That the company would be worth it. He died 6 months later, and I've regretted that choice every day since." Samantha's breath caught. "Nathan, I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry, learn from my mistake." Nathan's hand tightened slightly on hers. "Don't sacrifice your mother for your career. Don't carry this alone because you're afraid of looking weak. And for God's sake, don't assume you have to choose between your job and her life." "But the money," Samantha started. "Is not insurmountable," Nathan interrupted. "Samantha, I'm going to make you an offer, and I need you to hear me out before you refuse it reflexively, okay?" Samantha nodded, too exhausted to argue. "Pierce Industries has an employee hardship fund," Nathan said. "It's designed exactly for situations like this: medical emergencies, financial crises, circumstances beyond an employee's control. It's confidential, it's interest-free, and the repayment terms are flexible. I can have $50,000 approved and transferred to you by tomorrow morning." "That's—" Samantha felt fresh tears threatening. "That's too much. I can't accept—" "It's not a gift. It's a loan," Nathan clarified. "You'll pay it back over time at whatever rate is manageable for you. No pressure, no judgment. And more than that, I'm giving you 2 weeks of paid leave, effective immediately, to deal with your mother's treatment and your own well-being." "Nathan, I can't take 2 weeks off." "Not now. Not with the Henderson launch." "The Henderson launch will be fine," Nathan said firmly. "Your work is organized enough that your team can handle it, and if they can't, then I've been paying them to do nothing. Either way, you're taking the time off. That's not negotiable." Samantha stared at him, unable to process what he was offering. "Why would you do this? I'm just a project manager. There are hundreds of employees here. Why would you care this much?" Nathan released her hand, but his gaze stayed locked on hers. "Because I've been watching you for 2 years, Samantha. Watching you turn around failing projects. Mentor junior staff. Solve problems that no one else could figure out. You're not just anything. You're exceptional, and exceptional people deserve support when they're struggling." "Is this about keeping a good employee?" Samantha asked, needing to understand his motivation. "Partly," Nathan admitted. "But it's also about doing the right thing. About not letting someone suffer when I have the resources to help and—" He paused, something vulnerable flickering across his features. "It's about making sure you don't have to live with the regret I've carried for 15 years. Your mother deserves that treatment. You deserve to not have to choose between saving her and keeping your career. So let me help you, Samantha." "Please." The please again, that word that seemed so foreign coming from a man who usually commanded rather than requested. Samantha felt the careful walls she'd built crumbling, the independence she'd clung to, the pride that had kept her from asking for help. the fear that accepting support meant admitting weakness, all of it dissolving in the face of Nathan's sincere offer. "I don't know how to say yes," she whispered. "I don't know how to let someone help me." "Start with the words 'yes, thank you,'" Nathan suggested gently. "Everything else we'll figure out together." "Yes," Samantha said, her voice breaking. "Yes, thank you, The tears came again, but this time they felt different. Not the desperate, hopeless crying from before, but something that might have been relief. "Thank you." Nathan moved closer, and for a moment Samantha thought he might hug her, but he seemed to catch himself, maintaining professional distance even in this deeply unprofessional situation. "You're going to be okay," he said quietly. "Your mother is going to get the treatment she needs. You're going to take time to breathe and recover. And when you come back, you're going to continue being the exceptional project manager I've come to rely on." "Okay," Samantha nodded, using his handkerchief to wipe her face properly this time. "Okay." Nathan reached past her and disengaged the emergency stop. The elevator lurched back into motion, continuing its descent. "I'll have my assistant contact you tomorrow with the fund paperwork," Nathan said as they approached the ground floor. "It's straightforward. Just sign the agreement and the money will transfer. Use it for whatever you need, treatment, bills, living expenses, no restrictions." "I'll pay you back," Samantha promised. "Every penny, even if it takes years." "I know you will," Nathan replied, "but that's not the priority right now. Your mother is. Take care of her. Take care of yourself. Let us handle the work for a while." The elevator doors opened onto the parking garage level. Samantha stepped out, then turned back to look at Nathan, still standing in the elevator, his expression softer than she'd ever seen it. "Nathan," she said, "thank you for stopping the elevator, for making this space where I could fall apart safely. I needed that more than I realized." "Everyone needs that sometimes," Nathan replied. "A safe place to not be strong. I'm glad I could be that for you, even if the circumstances are less than ideal." The doors began to close, and Samantha caught them with her hand. "Can I ask you something?" "Always. When you look at me, when you've been watching me like you said, what do you see?" Nathan was quiet for a moment, considering then, "I see someone remarkable, someone who cares deeply about doing things right, someone who inspires loyalty in her team because she genuinely values them, someone who—" He stopped, seeming to reconsider his words. "Someone I admire more than is probably appropriate for a CEO to admit about an employee." Samantha's breath caught at the admission. "Nathan." "We'll talk about that later," Nathan said, but his slight smile suggested he didn't regret saying it. "After you've dealt with your mother's treatment, after you've had time to recover, but yes, Samantha, we'll talk about it." The elevator doors closed, leaving Samantha standing in the parking garage, Nathan's handkerchief still clutched in her hand, feeling like something fundamental had shifted in the space of one broken-down moment. She'd hidden her crisis so carefully, built such high walls around her struggle. But Nathan had seen through them anyway, had noticed her pain even when she'd been certain no one was looking. And instead of using that knowledge against her, he'd offered support without conditions, help without judgment. As Samantha walked to her car, she felt lighter than she had in months. The fear was still there. Cancer didn't disappear because someone offered financial help, but she wasn't carrying it alone anymore, and that, she was beginning to realize, made all the difference. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Nathan. Saved my number so you can reach me if you need anything, any time, any day. You're not alone in this anymore. Samantha, remember that." Samantha stared at the message, then typed back, "Thank you. For everything. For seeing me when I was trying so hard to be invisible." His response came quickly. "You could never be invisible, not to me." Samantha saved his number, started her car, and for the first time in 3 months, drove home without the crushing weight of hopelessness. She still had mountains to climb, battles to fight, but now she had an ally she'd never expected. And maybe, whispered a small voice in her heart, something more than that. Someday, when she was ready, when her mother was safe, when she could think about the future again without fear, the hardship fund paperwork arrived at 8 a.m. the next morning via Nathan's assistant, Grace, an efficient woman in her 50s who handed Samantha the folder with a knowing smile. "Mr. Pierce said to tell you that if you have any questions, call him directly," Grace said, "and that you're not to come into the office for the next 2 weeks, doctor's orders," he said, "though I suspect he's not actually a doctor." Samantha managed a weak laugh, still overwhelmed by everything. "Thank you, Grace. Thank you for finally letting someone help," Grace replied, surprising Samantha with the personal comment. "I've watched you running yourself ragged for weeks, mister. Pierce isn't the only one who notices things around here." After Grace left, Samantha sat at her kitchen table and read through the agreement. It was exactly as Nathan had described. Straightforward, generous, with repayment terms so flexible they barely qualified as terms at all. No interest, no penalties for late payments, no requirement to explain how the funds were used. At the bottom, in neat handwriting, was a note. "This is not charity. This is investment in someone who's earned it. Use it without guilt." NP Samantha signed the papers with shaking hands, scanned them and emailed them back. Within an hour, her phone pinged with a bank notification. $50,000 had been deposited into her account. She stared at the number, then burst into tears for the second time in 12 hours. But these were different tears. Relief, gratitude, the overwhelming emotion of having a crushing burden suddenly lifted. Her mother's treatment could begin immediately. The bills could be paid. She could breathe again. Samantha called the hospital before she could second-guess herself. "This is Samantha Wells calling about my mother. Margaret Wells. I'd like to schedule the experimental treatment we discussed. Yes, I can pay the deposit today. When can we start?" The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of hospital visits, consultations, and the first round of her mother's treatment. Margaret Wells, a fierce woman who'd raised Samantha alone and never once complained about how hard it was, cried when Samantha explained that the treatment was happening. "Baby, where did you get this kind of money?" Margaret asked from her hospital bed, her voice weak but her eyes sharp. "My company has a hardship fund," Samantha explained, which was true even if it wasn't the complete truth. "They approved it immediately." "That boss of yours must be something special," Margaret said, studying her daughter's face. "The way you talk about him, there's something there, isn't there?" "Mom, he's the CEO. He's just being a good employer." "Samantha Marie Wells, I raised you better than to lie to me," Margaret interrupted, her maternal instincts clearly unaffected by cancer treatment. "I see how your voice changes when you mention him, how you check your phone more than usual, so what's really going on?" Samantha sat on the edge of the hospital bed, carefully avoiding the IV lines. "I don't know," she admitted. "He's been kind, more than kind. He texts to check how you're doing. Oh, sends articles about the treatment, asks if I need anything. But it's probably just him being thorough. He's like that with work projects too." "Baby, you're not a work project," Margaret said gently. "And men who are just being professional don't look at women the way you've described him looking at you." "He said he admired me," Samantha confessed. "In the elevator when I was falling apart, he said it was more than was probably appropriate for a CEO to admit." Margaret's smile was knowing despite her exhaustion. "That man is interested in more than your project management skills, sweetheart. Question is, what are you going to do about it?" "Focus on getting you better," Samantha replied firmly. "Everything else can wait." "Everything else shouldn't have to wait," Margaret argued. "I'm not dying, Samantha. This treatment is working. The doctors said so yesterday. My numbers are improving. So stop putting your life on hold for me." "Mom?" "No, listen." Margaret took her daughter's hand. "I spent years sacrificing for you, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. But I didn't raise you to be so focused on taking care of others that you forget to let yourself be cared for. This Nathan person, he saw you struggling and helped without being asked. That's rare, baby. Don't dismiss it just because the timing isn't perfect," Samantha wanted to argue. But her mother's words settled somewhere deep. When had she stopped letting people in? When had independence become isolation? That evening, Samantha sat in her apartment and looked at her phone. Nathan had texted that morning, "How's your mother doing? And more importantly, how are you doing?" She'd responded with clinical updates about treatment protocols and test results, avoiding the personal question entirely. Now, looking at the conversation, she saw the pattern. Nathan asking personal questions, Samantha deflecting with professional responses. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, then typed before she could overthink it. "Mom's treatment is going well. As for me, I'm tired. Scared, grateful, and feeling guilty for accepting so much help, but also feeling something I haven't felt in months. Hope. Thank you for giving me that." The response came within minutes. "You don't need to thank me. But I'm glad you're feeling hope again. You deserve that. You deserve a lot of things you don't let yourself have." Samantha stared at the message, her heart doing complicated things like what? The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, appeared again, finally, like support without having to earn it. Rest without guilt. Someone who sees your strength but doesn't require you to be strong all the time. Someone who... The message ended abruptly, like he'd reconsidered finishing the thought. "Someone who what?" Samantha typed, surprised by her own boldness. Another long pause. Then, "Someone who wants to know you as more than just an exceptional employee. But that's a conversation for when your focus doesn't need to be elsewhere. How about we revisit this when your mother is stable and you've had time to breathe?" Samantha felt warmth spread through her chest. "That sounds like a promise to have a conversation later." "It is," Nathan replied. "I'm very good at keeping promises, Samantha." "I'm beginning to notice that," she typed back, smiling despite herself. The next week, Samantha accompanied her mother to a follow-up appointment. The oncologist reviewed Margaret's latest scans with an expression that made Samantha's heart race. "The tumor is responding," Dr. Kumar said, pointing to the images. "It's shrunk by almost 30%. That's exceptional progress for just 2 weeks of treatment." Samantha felt tears spring to her eyes. "So it's working." "It's definitely working," Dr. Kumar confirmed. "We'll continue the protocol for another 6 weeks, but if this trajectory continues, we're looking at a very positive outcome. Your mother is responding better than most patients we've seen with this treatment." Margaret squeezed Samantha's hand. "Told you I wasn't going anywhere yet," she said, her voice stronger than it had been in months. That evening, Samantha called Nathan without overthinking it. He answered on the second ring. "Samantha, is everything okay?" "Everything is more than okay," she said, feeling lighter than she had in months. "The treatment is working. Mum's tumor has shrunk 30%. The doctor is optimistic." "That's incredible," Nathan said, and she could hear the genuine relief in his voice. "I'm so happy for you both. How are you feeling?" "Like I can breathe again," Samantha admitted. "Like maybe everything is going to be okay after all. Nathan, She paused, unsure how to express what she was feeling. "I know I've already said thank you, but it doesn't feel like enough. You gave me hope when I had none. You helped save my mother's life." "You saved your mother's life," Nathan corrected gently. "You're the one who researched the treatment. Fought to get her qualified, organized everything. I just removed a financial obstacle." "An obstacle that would have been insurmountable without you," Samantha insisted. "So let me say thank you properly. Let me take you to dinner. Nothing fancy, just..." She hesitated. "Just 2 people sharing a meal and a conversation that isn't about work or medical bills." Nathan was quiet for a moment. "Are you asking me on a date, Samantha Wells?" Samantha felt her cheeks heat. "Maybe. Is that completely inappropriate given that you're my boss?" "Probably," Nathan admitted, but she could hear the smile in his voice. "But I'm not particularly concerned with appropriate right now. I've been waiting for you to be ready for this conversation. So yes, I'd love to have dinner with you when..." "Friday night," Samantha suggested. "I'll have just finished Mom's 3rd week of treatment, and I could use something normal and nice to look forward to." "Friday works perfectly," Nathan said. "I'll pick you up at 7 and Samantha..." "This isn't going to be about work or medical bills. This is going to be about you and me figuring out what this is between us, okay?" "Okay," Samantha agreed, feeling nervous and excited in equal measure. "I should warn you, I'm not great at this, at letting someone see me as more than just competent and capable." "Good thing I've already seen you at your most vulnerable," Nathan replied softly, "and found you even more remarkable because of it, so you don't have to perform for me, Samantha. Just be yourself, that's more than enough." Friday arrived with Samantha in a state of anxious anticipation. She told her mother about the dinner, and Margaret had been insufferably pleased, offering fashion advice and relationship wisdom that Samantha pretended to ignore while secretly taking notes. "Just remember," Margaret said as Samantha prepared to leave the hospital after that day's treatment session, "this man saw you at your worst, crying in an elevator, desperate and scared, and his response was to help, not to judge. That tells you everything you need to know about his character." "What if it's just who he is as a person?" Samantha asked. "What if he'd have done the same for any employee?" "Maybe he would have," Margaret allowed, "but I doubt he texts other employees daily to check on them. I doubt he keeps his promises to have deeper conversations with other employees." Baby, this man is interested. The question is whether you're brave enough to be interested back. Samantha thought about that as she drove home to change. Was she brave enough? She'd been so focused on survival for so long, surviving her mother's illness, surviving financial crisis, surviving each day, that she'd forgotten what it meant to actually live, to want something just because it made her happy, not because it was necessary or practical. Nathan arrived at precisely 7. Looking less formal than she'd ever seen him in dark jeans and a fitted navy sweater, he held a small bouquet of wildflowers. Nothing ostentatious, just simple and genuine. "You look beautiful," he said, his eyes warm with appreciation. Samantha had chosen a simple dress in deep green, her hair down instead of in its usual professional bun. "You look different outside the office," she replied, "less intimidating." "I'm never trying to intimidate you," Nathan said seriously. "I hope you know that." "I do now," Samantha replied, taking the flowers. "Give me 2 minutes to put these in water." Nathan had chosen a quiet Italian restaurant, intimate without being overly romantic, comfortable without being casual. They were seated at a corner table with a view of the city lights. "So," Nathan said once they'd ordered, "ground rules for tonight. No talk about work unless you bring it up. No discussion of medical bills or treatment protocols. Tonight is about getting to know each other as people, not as CEO and employee. Agreed?" "Agreed," Samantha said, "though I should warn you I'm not entirely sure who I am outside of work and caretaking. It's been a while since I let myself just be a person with interests and opinions about things that don't matter." "Then let's start simple," Nathan suggested. "What did you want to be when you were 10 years old?" Samantha laughed, surprised by the question. "A veterinarian. I wanted to save all the animals." "What changed?" "Reality. Vet school is expensive, and I was already watching my mum work multiple jobs to support us. I couldn't ask her to take on more debt for my dreams." Samantha paused. "So I chose business administration, practical, employable, something I could get scholarships for." "Do you regret it?" Nathan asked. Samantha considered. "Sometimes, but I'm good at what I do, and there's satisfaction in that, in knowing I'm skilled at something that matters." "You're more than good at what you do," Nathan said. "For you're exceptional, but Samantha, you're also allowed to have dreams that aren't practical, interests that don't serve a purpose, joy that isn't earned through productivity. Says the CEO who built an empire through relentless work," Samantha pointed out. Nathan's smile was rueful. "I'm a cautionary tale, not a role model. I built Pierce Industries by sacrificing everything personal. Relationships, hobbies, sleep, health. I told myself it was worth it, that success would fill the emptiness." He met her eyes. "It didn't. Success is hollow when you have no one to share it with. No life outside the office. No moments of genuine connection." "Is that why you helped me?" Samantha asked quietly. "Because you saw yourself in my self-sacrifice?" "Partly," Nathan admitted. "But mostly because I couldn't stand watching you suffer alone when I had the power to help. You've been handling everything with such grace, such determination. But Samantha, you don't have to be strong all the time, not with me." "Everyone expects me to be strong," Samantha said, feeling vulnerable admitting it. "My mom, my team at work, myself most of all. Showing weakness feels like failure." "Showing vulnerability isn't weakness," Nathan replied. "It's trust, and I'm honored that you trusted me enough to fall apart in that elevator, to let me see the real struggle instead of the perfect facade." Their food arrived, and the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Favorite books, travel dreams, childhood embarrassments. Samantha found herself laughing more than she had in months, forgetting to monitor her words or maintain professional distance. "Okay, my turn for a hard question," Samantha said over dessert. "Why are you single? You're successful, intelligent, apparently kind. Despite the intimidating CEO exterior, there must be a line of people interested." Nathan was quiet for a moment. "Honestly, because I've been waiting for someone who sees past the success and the company, someone who challenges me, who doesn't need me to be the powerful CEO, someone who—" He paused. "Someone like you, Samantha, who fell apart in an elevator and showed me real messy humanity instead of polished perfection." Samantha's breath caught. "Nathan, I know it's fast," he continued. "I know the circumstances are complicated, but I've been drawn to you since you started at Pierce Industries 2 years ago. The way you handle impossible projects, the way you treat your team, the quiet competence you bring to everything, and then seeing you struggle. Seeing your fierce determination to save your mother despite impossible odds. His voice roughened. I don't want to wait anymore, Samantha. Life's too short to pretend we don't feel what we feel. Samantha set down her fork, her heart racing. What exactly do we feel? Nathan reached across the table. Taking her hand, I can only speak for myself, but I feel drawn to you in a way that goes far beyond professional respect. I want to know everything about you, your dreams, your fears, what makes you laugh at inappropriate times. I want to be the person you call when things are hard. Not because you need help, but because you want me there. He stopped, seeming to catch himself. I want to see where this goes, if you're willing. I'm willing, Samantha said, the words coming out before she could second-guess them. I'm terrified, and I'm still figuring out how to let someone help me, and I have no idea how this works with you being my boss. But I'm willing to try. Nathan's smile was brilliant. Then we'll figure it out together, one day at a time, no pressure, at whatever pace feels right for you. As they left the restaurant, Nathan's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining naturally. It felt right in a way Samantha hadn't expected, comfortable and thrilling at the same time. Thank you, she said as they walked to his car. For tonight, for giving me permission to just be myself, flaws and fears and all. Samantha, Nathan said, stopping to face her, your flaws and fears are part of what makes you remarkable. Don't ever apologize for being human, it's the best thing about you. And standing there under the streetlights, Samantha realized her mother had been right. She deserved this. Deserved to be seen, to be cared for, to let someone else be strong when she was tired of being strong alone. The healing had begun long before Nathan had walked into that elevator, but he'd helped her remember what she'd been fighting for all along. Not just survival, but life. 6 weeks later, Samantha stood in the hospital corridor waiting for her mother's final scan results. The treatment had continued to show remarkable progress. Margaret's tumor had shrunk by 70%, her energy had returned, and the doctors were cautiously optimistic about long-term remission. But cautiously optimistic wasn't the same as certain, and Samantha found herself holding her breath as Dr. Kumar approached with a folder in hand. Samantha, Dr. Kumar said, her expression unreadable. Then she smiled, and Samantha felt her knees go weak with relief. Your mother is in complete remission. The tumor is undetectable on current scans. We'll need to monitor closely for the next year, but as of right now, she's cancer-free. Samantha's hand flew to her mouth, tears immediately spilling over. She's really, Dr. Kumar confirmed. The experimental treatment exceeded all our expectations. Your mother's response has been remarkable. She's one of the success stories we'll use to advocate for broader approval of this protocol. Samantha barely remembered walking into her mother's room, barely processed Margaret's joyful tears, barely felt her own legs give out as she sank into the chair beside the bed. All she could think was, she's okay, Mom is going to be okay. Baby, you're crushing my hand, Margaret said through her own tears, laughing. Sorry, Samantha gasped, loosening her grip but not letting go. I can't believe it's real. You're really going to be okay. Told you I wasn't going anywhere, Margaret replied, stroking her daughter's hair. Though I have to say, having cancer was almost worth it to see you finally let someone take care of you for a change. Mom, Samantha protested weakly. I'm serious. That Nathan of yours. Have you told him the good news? Samantha pulled out her phone with shaking hands and texted. Mom is in complete remission. Cancer-free, I can't breathe, I'm so happy. The response came within seconds. That's incredible. I'm so happy for you both. Are you still at the hospital? Yes, for another hour probably. I'm coming. Don't argue. I want to celebrate with you. Samantha smiled through her tears. Over the past 6 weeks, Nathan had become a constant presence in her life. Not overwhelming, not demanding, but steadily there. Coffee dates before work, late-night phone calls when she couldn't sleep, weekend visits where he'd simply sit with her and Margaret, asking about her mother's life, her stories, treating her with the same respect and attention he showed everyone he cared about. The office had noticed, of course. Samantha had returned to work 2 weeks earlier, and the whispers had started immediately, but Nathan had addressed it directly in a company-wide email. Samantha Wells and I are seeing each other personally. All appropriate HR protocols have been followed, including reassignment of her direct reporting structure. To ensure no conflicts of interest, any questions or concerns should be directed to me personally. The boldness of it, the refusal to hide or apologize, had shocked the office into acceptance, and Samantha's work had spoken for itself. The Henderson launch exceeding all projections thanks to the detailed planning she'd done before her leave. Nathan arrived at the hospital 40 minutes later, somehow having acquired a bouquet of Margaret's favorite flowers, yellow roses, and a bottle of sparkling cider. "I heard someone has reason to celebrate," he said, his warm smile encompassing both Wells women. "Nathan," Margaret beamed, "get over here and give me a hug. Carefully, though. I'm cancer-free but still attached to medical equipment." Nathan embraced her gently, and Samantha watched with affection as her mother fussed over him, insisted he sit down, and immediately began telling him about the treatment results in far more medical detail than necessary. "Mom, I think Nathan gets the general idea," Samantha interrupted eventually. "Let her share," Nathan said, his hand finding Samantha's. "This is her victory. She should get to celebrate it however she wants." After Margaret finally dozed off, worn out from excitement, Nathan and Samantha stepped into the hospital corridor. "How are you really feeling?" Nathan asked, pulling her into his arms. Samantha leaned into him, breathing in his familiar scent, something clean and cedar-like, relieved, grateful, overwhelmed, like I can finally think about the future without fear. "Good," Nathan murmured into her hair. "Because I'd like to talk about that future if you're ready." Samantha pulled back to look at him. "What about it?" "Well, for starters," Nathan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope. "This is the repayment agreement for the hardship fund. I'd like you to tear it up." "What?" "Nathan, no, I agreed to pay back—" "I know what you agreed to," Nathan interrupted gently. "But I'm forgiving the loan. Call it a gift. Call it an investment in someone I care about. Call it whatever makes you comfortable, but I don't want you spending the next 5 years working overtime to repay money that I never needed back." "That's $50,000, Samantha protested. "That's a rounding error in my personal finances," Nathan replied. "Samantha, I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. Letting you struggle to repay this when I can easily afford to forgive it, that would be ego, not ethics. So please, let me do this." Samantha looked at the envelope, at Nathan's sincere expression, and felt old walls crumbling. "I don't know how to accept this." "The same way you accepted help in the elevator," Nathan said, "by recognizing that people who care about you want to make your life easier, not harder. That accepting support doesn't make you weak or indebted. It just makes you human." Samantha took the envelope with trembling hands and slowly tore it in half, then in quarters, then into small pieces that fluttered to the hospital floor like confetti. "Thank you," she whispered. "You're welcome," Nathan replied, pulling her close again. "Now, can we discuss the other part of the future I wanted to talk about?" "There's more." "There's always more with me," Nathan said, but his tone was light. "Samantha, your 2-year contract with Pierce Industries is up for renewal next month. I'd like to offer you a promotion. Director of Strategic Projects, reporting directly to the executive team, significant raise, corner office, your own budget and staff." Samantha pulled back in shock. Nathan, that's a major promotion, people will say." "People will say you earned it," Nathan interrupted. "Because you have. Your work on the Henderson launch was exceptional. The Carlson merger you managed last year saved us millions. You have a track record that justifies this promotion completely independent of our personal relationship." "But it will look like favoritism," Samantha argued. "So we'll be scrupulously transparent," Nathan replied. "Your performance reviews will be conducted by an independent committee. Your projects will be evaluated by metrics, not my opinion. We'll document everything so there's never a question about your qualifications. But Samantha, I'm not going to hold you back professionally because we're involved personally. You've earned this position, take it." Samantha thought about it, about the opportunity, about the implications, then, "I want to think about it, not because I doubt I've earned it, but because I want to make sure I'm taking it for the right reasons." "Fair enough," Nathan agreed. "Take the weekend. But Samantha, I hope you say yes not for me but for yourself, because you deserve recognition for your work. You deserve to stop playing small because you're worried about what people think." That evening, Samantha sat in her apartment. The same apartment she'd lived in throughout the crisis, Though it felt different now, lighter, and thought about Nathan's offer, her phone rang, her mother calling from the hospital room. "Baby, you need to take that promotion," Margaret said without preamble. "Were you eavesdropping?" Samantha asked. "Absolutely. The walls are thin and I was pretending to sleep." Margaret's tone was unapologetic. "Samantha, I raised you to be strong and independent, but I never meant for you to be so independent that you couldn't accept good things when they came your way. This man loves you. Yes, loves, don't argue with me. And he's offering you an opportunity you've earned, take it. What if people think I only got it because I'm dating the CEO? Then you prove them wrong every single day through your work," Margaret replied firmly. "Just like you've been doing for 2 years, baby. You've spent your whole life working twice as hard to prove you belonged. Maybe it's time to accept that you've already proven it, that you're allowed to have success without suffering for it." After hanging up, Samantha texted Nathan, "I'll take the promotion. But on one condition. I want to do a company-wide presentation on my strategic vision for the role. Let my work speak before my title does." His response was immediate. "That's exactly the kind of thinking that makes you perfect for this position. Monday morning, 9 a.m., full executive team, show them what you've got." Monday morning arrived with Samantha more nervous than she'd been for any presentation in her career. This wasn't just about the promotion. It was about proving she belonged here, that her relationship with Nathan hadn't clouded her judgment or his. The executive conference room was full, all the VPs. The CFO, the COO, and Nathan, who sat at the far end of the table maintaining careful professional distance. Samantha took a breath and began. For 45 minutes, she outlined her vision for the Director of Strategic Projects role, new efficiency protocols, innovative client engagement strategies, mentorship programs for junior staff. She anticipated every objection, answered every question with data and experience. When she finished, the room was silent. Then the CFO, a notoriously tough woman named Patricia Chen, spoke. "That was impressive, Mrs. Wells. You've clearly thought through every aspect of this role." Patricia looked at Nathan. "I support this promotion, based purely on merit." One by one, the other executives agreed. By the time the meeting ended, Samantha's promotion had been unanimously approved, her strategic plan adopted, and her place in the leadership team secured. As people filed out, Nathan caught her eye and smiled. Not the CEO smile he gave everyone else, but the warm, private smile reserved just for her. Later that evening, Nathan took Samantha to the rooftop of Pierce Industries, where the city spread out below them in a glittering expanse. "I'm proud of you," he said, pulling her close. "For that presentation, for taking the risk, for believing in yourself. I couldn't have done any of this without you," Samantha replied. "The support, the belief, the push to see myself as more than just—" "Stop," Nathan interrupted gently. "You did this, Samantha. I just removed some obstacles and stood beside you while you climbed. The strength, the brilliance, the determination. That was all you." Samantha turned to face him fully, her hands on his chest. "I love you," she said, the words coming easily now. "I don't think I've said it clearly enough, but I do. I love you for seeing me when I was trying to be invisible, for believing in me when I'd stopped believing in myself, for making me feel like I could be vulnerable without being weak." "I love you too," Nathan replied, his voice rough with emotion. "I love your strength and your vulnerability. I love how fiercely you protect the people you care about. I love that you challenge me and push back and refuse to let me intimidate you. I love—" He paused, cupping her face in his hands. "I love that you let me see the real you that night in the elevator. The scared, exhausted, desperately brave you. That's when I knew." "Knew what?" "That I wanted to spend the rest of my life making sure you never had to be that scared and alone again." Samantha's breath caught. "Nathan, that sounds like—" "A promise," he finished. "Not a proposal. Not yet. I know we need more time. But a promise that I'm in this for the long haul, Samantha. That I'm not going anywhere. That you can depend on me without fear that I'll leave when things get hard." "I'm not used to depending on people," Samantha admitted. "I know," Nathan said gently. "But you're learning and I'm patient. We have time to figure this out. How to balance independence with partnership, strength with vulnerability, your need for self-sufficiency with my desire to support you." Samantha leaned into him, feeling the solid warmth of his presence. "I'm glad you walked into that elevator," she whispered. "I'm glad you let yourself fall apart in front of me." Nathan replied. Best thing that could have happened to both of us. 3 months later. Samantha stood in her new corner office looking at the plaque on her door. Samantha Wells, Director of Strategic Projects. Her mother had been declared officially cancer-free. Her team respected her leadership, and Nathan. Nathan appeared in her doorway holding 2 coffee cups. Thought you could use this, he said, handing her one. You're spoiling me, Samantha protested, but she took the coffee gratefully. Good, Nathan replied. You deserve to be spoiled. How's the Brennan project coming? They talked business for a few minutes, professional and focused, but when Nathan turned to leave, he paused at the door. Dinner tonight, he asked. There's something I want to ask you. Samantha's heart skipped. That sounds serious. It is, Nathan said, but his smile was warm, but also good, I promise. That evening, at the same restaurant where they'd had their first date, Nathan took Samantha's hands across the table. I know it's only been a few months, he began, and I know we agreed to take things slow, but Samantha, I've never been more certain of anything in my life. You've changed everything for me, made me remember what it means to actually live, not just work, made me want mornings and evenings and futures that include more than board meetings and quarterly reports. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I'm not asking you to marry me tonight, Nathan continued as Samantha's eyes widened, but I am asking permission to ask you someday to make this official when you're ready, this ring. He opened the box to reveal a simple, elegant diamond. Is a promise that I'm here, that I'm yours, that whenever you're ready to say yes to forever, I'll be waiting. Samantha stared at the ring, at Nathan's vulnerable expression, at the future he was offering. Ask me, she whispered. What? Ask me now, Samantha said more firmly. I don't need more time, Nathan. I know what I want. I know who I want. Ask me. Nathan's smile was brilliant. He slid off his chair and knelt beside the table. Samantha Wells, will you marry me? Yes, Samantha said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, absolutely yes. As Nathan slid the ring onto her finger, as the restaurant erupted in applause from nearby diners who'd noticed the proposal. Samantha thought about that night in the elevator. The night she'd been at her lowest, most vulnerable, most broken. The night that had led to everything else. Sometimes, she realized, falling apart in front of the right person was the bravest thing you could do, not because it took courage to show weakness, but because it took courage to trust someone to see you at your worst and choose to stay anyway. Nathan had stayed, had helped, had loved her through crisis and recovery and growth, and now, looking at the ring on her finger and the man she loved beside her, Samantha understood what her mother had been trying to teach her all along. Strength wasn't about handling everything alone. It was about building a life with someone who made you feel safe enough to not have to.